Behind the grand legend of the mighty Hood is the story of Walter Harry Smith. A kind-hearted and intelligent young man. He was named after his uncles, Walter and Harry. He was a son, he was a gardener, he was a sailor. After speaking to my mum, Susan, she had conversations with Walter's mother, Mary, about his character, and through him we will tell the story of them all. When the Hood went down, 1,415 brave men lost their lives. Just 3 survivors were left to tell the tale. My great-uncle Walter represents every single one of those sailors. He represents the lives they left behind, the bonds they forged, the ultimate sacrifice they made. Walter's journey began far away from the horrors of war. He was born on 13th of November 1920 in Hackenthorpe. Then part of Derbyshire, now Sheffield. The son of Luke and Mary Jane Smith. He grew up with a gentle spirit. He worked with his hands as a local gardener. But dark clouds of World War II gathered over Europe. Walter answered a very different calling. In January 1938, at just 17 years old, he joined the Royal Navy. He entered as a boy, second class. He rose steadily through the ranks. He moved from boy first class to ordinary seaman. Then came 2nd of June 1939. Walter walked up the gangway. He stepped onto the deck of the largest, most famous warship in the world, H.M.S Hood. For nearly 2 years, this steel giant was his home. Walter lived on the ship's cramped mess decks. The mess deck was a crowded, hot and damp living area. Sailors slept in canvas hammocks slung just inches apart. By the summer of 1940, the war took a dark turn. France suddenly surrendered to Nazi Germany. Great Britain stood completely alone. The French Navy was the 4th largest in the world. Prime Minister Winston Churchill feared Adolf Hitler would seize these ships to invade Great Britain. He made a desperate, agonising decision: Operation Catapult. Britain formed a specialist naval task force based out of Gibraltar called Force H. HMS Hood was the flagship. On 3rd of July 1940, the British gave the French fleet a strict ultimatum. The French commander refused due to strict military honour and catastrophic communication failures. HMS Hood was ordered to open fire. The French ships were anchored tightly together inside the harbour. They were completely exposed. The devastating 15-minute British bombardment killed 1,297 French sailors. It wounded more than 350 others. Its heartbreak is preserved in a deeply personal handwritten postcard. It was a memorial written by Walter's mother to record communication with her son. Her word-for-word notes capture the true emotional weight. Walter was the youngest member of this specialist team responsible for maintaining, loading and firing the ship's torpedoes. This gives his full name and military rank. A leading seaman was a young but capable leader in charge of other sailors. This confirms his station on Britain's most famous warship. This is Walter's first-hand name for the attack. He noted targeting their former allies, specifically the flagship Dunkirk. Not a glorious victory. These are the most powerful words on the postcard. Walter expressed the sadness, guilt and regret felt by the British sailors that day. They felt sickened that they had to kill nearly 1,300 of their former brothers in arms. Walter's words perfectly capture how history remembers the event. It was a tragic, heartbreaking time of war, rather than something to celebrate. Seeking comfort amidst this heavy environment, Walter wrote home later that year. He proudly sent his parents a Christmas card with a simple, loving message, with every good wish for Christmas and the new year, from your loving son, Walter. Along with it, he sent his hood cap tally, the black silk ribbon from his hat, to a worried mother back home. It was a precious keepsake she could hold in her hands. It was a connection to her son. Despite the horrors he witnessed, Walter never faltered. His steady character and natural maturity did not go unnoticed. By February 1941, he was promoted to acting leading seaman. This rank brought full authority and full responsibility, but in wartime it often meant taking on extra danger without immediate extra pay. Walter was now a non-commissioned officer in charge of a section of men. As a specialist torpedo man, it was his duty to maintain discipline, oversee grueling damage control drills, and ensure his team worked flawlessly under pressure. Then came May 1941. The ultimate threat emerged: the German battleship Bismarck. As the battle station's alarms blared, Walter's responsibility became a matter of life and death. Deep inside the steel belly of the ship, amidst the roaring machinery and the smell of oil, Walter stood with his torpedo crew. He was no longer just a boy from the quiet gardens of Hackenthorpe. He was a leader keeping his men calm as the world shook around them. On 24th of May, the freezing waters of the Denmark Strait bore witness to the clash of giants. The German battleship opened fire. Inside the Hood, the noise must have been deafening. Walter and his crew waited in the dark, ready to launch their weapons if the ship closed the distance. They never got chance. A final catastrophic shell from the Bismarck pierced the Hood's armour, detonating the ship's rear magazines. A massive pillar of fire erupted into the sky. The resulting blast was so immense that it tore the back half of the ship completely apart, sending a pillar of flame hundreds of feet into the air. The Hood broke in two in less than 3 minutes. The mighty flagship broke apart and vanished beneath the waves. Walter Harry Smith died that morning, along with 1,414 of his brothers in arms. He never returned to his family. When rescue ships arrived at the scene just 2 hours later, they found a vast field of debris. Because the ship had been sealed for battle and sank instantly into the freezing Arctic waters, not a single body could be recovered. Back home in Hackenthorpe, the devastating news broke to his family and broke their hearts. Walter's mother Mary talked about her son often. His dad Luke was a quiet man and found it hard to speak about what happened to his son. Because there was no grave to visit and no final goodbye, Mary carried a secret, a desperate wish. Deep in her heart, against all odds, she hoped that Walter would somehow return. She spent the rest of her days waiting for her kind son to walk back through the front door. For the rest of their lives, Luke and Mary Jane treasured Walter's keepsakes, his badges, his writings sent home. Before they passed, they entrusted them to a neighbour, who ensured they reached the HMS Hood Association to be preserved forever. In August 2015, a deep-sea expedition successfully recovered the bronze ship's bell from the wreckage of HMS Hood. It was carefully restored and is now on permanent display at the National Museum of the Royal Navy in Portsmouth. It stands as a physical monument, a living memorial, and a lasting connection to 1,415 men that never came home.